Today I'm actually with Michael Hanrahan, who is a publishing guru expert all the way from Melbourne, Australia. And we're going to be talking about how to build an online book launch. Michael's going to be talking about some of the background in terms of preparing your book, what you can do about it, how to set it up, the audience, all that good stuff. And he's going to go into more detail with that coming up. And then I'm going to talk about the digital side of things, building your digital platform that helps you do a book launch. And obviously with the changes that we're seeing, we really need to push forward with how do we actually how do we build that foundation in the digital space for whatever you're doing, right? It can be typically business as usual with some differences as well. And that's the really important message that we wanted to deliver here, is that you can produce a book launch as an online type event. It doesn't have to be a big gala at a specific venue anymore. Never actually did. Well, I suppose it did at some point. What do you think, Michael?
G'day everybody. I've been around books and writing my whole life. I've seen every kind of book launch you could possibly imagine. So yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, well, exactly. And what the shift that you're seeing now, obviously it's, been put on high priority recently, but why do you see the shift, or do you see the shift as well?
Well, yeah, certainly we've been seeing, obviously, with a lot of businesses, a shift online generally anyway over the last few years. Obviously, with events in the last few weeks, it's suddenly got really, really urgent for some people. I've already had numerous conversations with people and seen numerous conversations online about people suddenly saying, how do I do an online book launch? Because now you're not allowed to have more than, 10 people or whatever it is in a room. So, yeah, this is certainly something people are looking at most urgently.
Yeah, and it can, the example you had is that you've got somebody who had planned for a physical launch, and then this happened, right?
Yeah, I've had a few more conversations since you and I spoke about this. We've got 2 or 3 people now who have pulled the plug on a physical book launch that was meant to be happening in the next few weeks. Oh. So they are very, very desperately trying to pull this kind of thing together. So yeah, it's obviously a lot of things have been turned upside down right now, and book launches are one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's yeah. But I'll be completely honest, and we were talking about a bit earlier, tech can be an issue, but you know what? There's something there for everything, right? All these tools are available. They're all there. It's just a matter of how you put them together. I kind of say that because that's sort of my life every day. And I'm sure you say, well, everything's there to produce a book too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So certainly, I mean, I've said to you earlier, Doyle, I'm going to learn a lot today as well, because the online side of things is something I don't know much about. But certainly everything's still there to produce your book. We haven't stopped in any way, shape or form. We're still, fortunately, we've been luckier than a lot of businesses. We're still going full speed ahead. So, people shouldn't think right now that if they're working on a book, it has to stop. It doesn't. And if you were planning on having a launch, with a lot of people turning up, obviously you will have to rethink that. But yeah, certainly the tools you need to do your book right now are still available for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that you can do right now, right? You're remote, and you kind of work with a lot of people from around Australia and around the world as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work from a home office, so we didn't have to worry about that to begin with. And the whole book production process these days is electronic. Editing is electronic, sending proofs to authors is electronic, sending material to the printers is electronic, digital files. The only part of it that's a physical process these days is actually printing the book. So everything else is done digitally. So we regularly work with authors in different cities, different countries, and it all just works just as if they were around the corner. So it's all online these days, just about.
Yeah, fantastic. And for those authors who have a launch, I would suggest don't cancel it. I mean, obviously, depending on time, if it's tomorrow, you might have a bit of a challenge here. But happy to help out and reach those people that are in a big crunch, that are had their event planned in the next couple of weeks. And not sure what to do. I wouldn't cancel it. You don't need a lot of times. I'm going to go through sort of a process that really explains it a bit more detail, and given that you would have typically a lot more time type thing. But you know what? You can send out an email pretty quickly. You can set up a platform, a digital platform like this is Be Live or Zoom or whatever. and I'm going to get into those. But you can set those up pretty quickly. So my recommendation initially is, if you're really stuck, you've got an event coming up, please just reach out and we'll walk you through it specifically. I'm going to show you some things as well, but don't cancel it. Right. I think it's important to kind of keep business going as well as we really get into this. Otherwise, you're going to kind of lose momentum, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree with that 100%. I think, I've again had this conversation a few times with our authors that, in a way, getting your book out there now is even more important. Everybody's going to be up against all sorts of challenges in the next, who knows how long, we don't know, but certainly months. So, getting your book out there, you'd still get all the same advantages you do of getting your book out there in the good times. It'll still separate you from the competition and give you something to market and promote yourself. So absolutely, if you conceivably can do it, I know people are going to have some struggles during this, but if you can do it, get your book out there.
Yeah, I agree. Keep going. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we've talked a little bit about the topic. Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I mentioned before, I grew up around books. My dad was a writer, so been around this stuff my whole life. I did a writing and editing degree at university, got my first job at a small publishing company. They got taken over by a large publishing company. Then I was a freelance editor for about 15 years, and we've run a self-publishing business for about the last 4 or 5 years called Publish Central. So we specialize in helping authors with what we call self-publishing for small business. So self-publishing for business is really, really popular these days. It's a great way to get out there and promote your business. So we work with all sorts of different authors, all types of businesses. You pick just about any business topic you can think of. We've done a book on it at some point.
Yeah, fantastic. How many books would you have produced over the years?
Well, me personally, I'd try and wonder that sometimes it'd probably be in the thousands if you talk about any degree of involvement. As Publish Central, we've been doing about 30, 35 books a year for about 4 or 5 years now.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah,
fantastic.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. And so we're also, if you're listening live, please ask some questions. We're going to go through some questions at the end. Michael's got some gifts. I've got some gifts as well for those who do stick around and ask questions. Michael, you're going to give a couple copies of your book?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So my book is a book about how to self-publish a book for your business. So steps you through the process. It's called Stand Out. So it's all about making your business stand out. So it's got everything in there about editing, printing, cover design, everything you need. Useful book if you want to either manage the process yourself, or if you're going to use a company like ours, it'll still be useful, give you a head start on the process.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Thank you for that. And we'll send the links. We'll put the links in the chat, and we'll put the links on some of the resources and pages as well. And myself, I'll be giving away 5 or so copies of my book, Breakthrough, Unleash Your Remarkable Brand Value, Influence, and Authority. It's about basically building your digital foundation and going at it with a proper strategy as well. And if you've seen the PDF or the book or me talking about it, I talk about it a lot. But having that foundation is so important. It keeps you focused. It keeps you, on track, and making sure that you're building a good foundation for your business going forward. So happy to give some copies away for that, as well as a few other gifts that we're going to talk about coming up. So again, please ask your questions as they come up. Hopefully I'll be able to see them and respond to them. Sometimes there's a tech issue. Actually, that was another thing. It's like tech is going to have problems. Don't panic. Don't panic buy. Take it easy. Just kind of realize that, hey, this is par for the course, and keep the business happening. So super, super important. All right, so let's get right into it, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop off so that you can show the presentation, and then I'll come back and forth, and we'll keep moving from there. So hang on 1 second here. There we go.
Okay. So what we're going to start off with is we're just going to give a little quick introduction for people. We know there's some people watching who haven't written their book yet, and so they're kind of in the very early days of the process. So we're just going to give them a few quick tips. So we're going to start with understanding your audience. Now, the first mistake you see up there, your book can't be for everybody. This is one that we do hear from time to time. You ask someone who their book's for, and they say, well, it's for everybody. It's for people who are 15 years old and people who are 60 years old and all that kind of thing. It's not a good idea to try and write your book for everybody. It's going to water it down. You're going to try and use different language for different audiences, and it's just not going to work. So understanding your audience is a very important tip when you're first starting to plan for your book. You should have a few audiences. So you should have a primary audience, that's your main target, and then you can have a secondary audience, which you also want to include in the process, and then you can also have some lower priority audiences. So my target audience when I was writing my book was not just small business owners, but I clarified it to highly motivated small business owners. So the difference there is I'm not writing my book to try and motivate them. So it's just about the process of publishing the book. So it's very important to really clearly clarify your audience. So that's one of the first things you should do when you're planning your book. Okay, next question you need to answer is, why are you writing your book? This needs to be really, really well clarified. Again, if you think your book's you're writing it for all sorts of different reasons, you're going to get into trouble. You need to really clearly narrow down your reasons. So as you see here, there's just a few reasons. These reasons that you've got here are pulled out of an article I wrote called 50 Reasons Why You Can Write and Publish a Book for Your Business. So this is just a few of them. Now, the obvious one is to promote your business. Another reason authors do publish a book for their business is to demonstrate their expertise, gain clients. So if that's your strategy with your book, your strategy will be a little bit different, to attract new clients, to be seen as a leading expert in your field. So you can see all those types of reasons for publishing your book. Again, very, very important that you clarify this and you have a really clear picture in your head of why you're doing it. Okay, now this could be a whole session in itself, so this is going to be the 2-second version, but the reason we're putting this in is authors often, would-be authors often simply don't know where to start. So I have conversations with authors all the time who say, yeah, I want to write a book for my business, but I can't even think of where to start. And then after I've had a conversation with them, they've got 50 ideas to go away with. So this is just a really kind of quick introduction if you want to go away and start at least coming up with some ideas for what to write your book about. So the first step is brainstorm your topic. So have a think about your business. You should be able to write down 50, 60, 100 different topics that you think readers might be interested in. So have a think about the questions you get asked all day by your clients. No doubt you get the same questions coming up over and over again. Have a think about what you want your business to be known for. So is it a particular product or service that you offer, or is it a new market that you're moving into? So you all know, everybody knows what brainstorming is. Brainstorm, write down everything you can possibly think of that your readers might be interested, and that's a good starting point for choosing a topic for your book. Now, then obviously after you've done that, give it some thought, think about your audience, which we've talked about, think about why you're writing your book, which we've talked about, and then choose one of these topics as the subject of your book. Then you go through the process again. So you've written this one topic, you should be able to brainstorm that again, and again come up with 50 odd topics about that particular thing. Then once you've done that, you can pick about 8, 10, 12 of those to become your chapter headings. And then the next step, brainstorming again, go through each of those chapters and you should be able to come up with 8 or 10 topics for each chapter that become the subheadings for your book. So again, there's a lot more to it than that. This is just a really quick crash course. But if you do want to leave here today with at least some idea of how to go away and come up with a book idea, that's a good place to get started. Thanks, Doyle. So now we're on to launching your book. So that was, like, say, just a really quick introduction for people. We know there's some people watching who haven't yet written their book. So that's just to give them something to go away with. Now, the thing most people are here for today is launching your book. So what we're going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit about book launches in general, and then Doyle's going to get really specifically into the online aspect, and I'm actually going to learn something in that as well. So first thing is, what is a book launch? So I actually get asked this question all the time. Kind of seems like an obvious question, but authors often, they've never done it before. A lot of authors we work with are first timers. They don't actually know what a book launch is. So the answer to that question is, a book launch can actually be whatever you want it to be. So if you go to the next slide, Doyle. A book launch can actually be whatever you want it to be. So as I said before, I've been around this stuff my whole life. I've been to launches that were, 10 people in a lounge room, 50 people in an art gallery. I've been to launches that were, in conference halls at hotels with 400 people, that kind of thing. Been to launches that were cooking demonstrations. So a launch can be whatever you want it to be. Now, the challenge that we have, and why we're all here today, is we can't do those sorts of things anymore, at least for the foreseeable future. So what you can think about, though, is you can apply that process still to the online world. So have a think about what you can do online, what sort of event you can do. You can still do things online. You can do demonstrations online. So again, if you've done a cookbook, you could do a cooking demonstration online. So have a think about all those sorts of things. So as I said, a book launch can be whatever you want it to be. The best way to describe it is it's usually just a party to celebrate your book. So that's basically it in a nutshell. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever works for you, that's your book launch, whether it's online or in the physical world. Thanks, Doyle. Okay, so we're just going to quickly step through some ideas for getting ready and planning your launch. Now, these again apply whether you're doing an online launch or the first thing you have to figure out is, why are you having your launch? So many of these questions come back to, why are you doing it? Why are you writing your book? Why are you having your launch? The biggest mistake we see authors make, and this is not the authors we work with because we help them through this, but the biggest mistake I see authors make is they don't know why they're having the book launch. So they kind of think they're just meant to do it. So they hire a cafe or they book out a restaurant, they invite some people along, and it's all kind of a fun night. And then at the end of it, they've spent $5,000 and they're like, well, I wasn't quite sure why I did that. So make sure you have a plan for your launch. Is it just for a party for your friends and family? If it is, that's fine. If it's a business event, then treat it like a business event. Have a plan for it. Know what you're going to spend on it. Know what your budget is. Know what you're trying to get out of it. And again, whether it's online or at the local restaurant, these rules still apply. So that's the first thing you have to do. Answer the question of why you're actually having it. Don't just have a book launch because you think it's what you do when you've written your book. Okay, so here's a few reasons why you would have a book launch, and all of these are fine, and this is just a couple of them. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just all about clarifying exactly why you're doing it. So you'll see at the top of the list there, celebrate. Now that's obvious, and it doesn't matter why you're having your launch, that should be part of it. If you've written and published a book, that's an awesome thing to have done. So don't forget to pop some champagne on the day and celebrate your book coming out. Now, here's a really good reason to have a book launch: to gain some publicity. So everybody wants to promote their book. You want to get out there and make sales and build your profile as an author. So the launch is a great chance to get out there and get yourself out into the world. So you can send your media release to send a release to the media. Send it to all your social media contacts, that kind of thing, your mail list. It's a great way to promote your book. It's a good excuse to contact people and say, hey, my book's coming out in 3 weeks. I'd love you to come to the launch. Next one, sell books. That's an obvious one. And apparently I'm done. No, okay. Sell books. That's an obvious one. So, and you can still do that online. So most book launches I go to, the author sells the book and pretty much everybody there buys it. It's just, it's kind of expected when you go to a launch that you're going to buy a copy of the book. And there's no reason that can be any different online. I actually went to a launch of a podcast about 6 months ago, and it was one of our authors, and she had everybody there. Was probably 150 people there, and those were the days. And she actually said to everybody, pull out your phone, go to the whatever podcast service you use, and everybody downloaded and subscribed to the podcast while they were there at the launch. So have a think about something clever like that. It could be a great opportunity for you to sell a whole lot of ebooks actually at the launch. Another great thing you can do with the launch is connect with past and present clients. So, books are fantastic for that. So, we've all got clients we haven't heard from for 2 or 3 years. Invite them along to the launch. Build your profile. That's an obvious one. That's really why you're doing the book in the first place, to build yourself up as an expert in your field, and obviously to promote your business. So again, these are just a few things to get you started. Again, like the other list, I could write 50, 100 reasons up there. There's no right or wrong answer. The reasons themselves are important, but the most important thing is to really clarify what the reasons are and plan for it.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. You mentioned what I've found in sort of the launch world is that you have business authors, and they're tell me if I'm wrong, but they're focused really on the actual launch and sort of and as a celebration is what I'm trying to spit out here.
Yeah.
But they're looking at it as a celebration. Hey, I did this cool piece of work. Come and celebrate with me, and yes, pop some champagne and that sort of thing. But sometimes I've found that they're missing sort of, okay, well, what's next? Sort of the business side of things.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what I was getting at before in saying that I think the biggest mistake we see is authors haven't thought it through. And so why am I having this launch? It's just, they just focus on the one day, and they say book a room at a restaurant, and then it's kind of, oh, why did I do that? So yeah, absolutely. It all comes back to the planning, like so many things comes back to the planning. So not only what are you doing for the launch, but how is it going to help your business? Are you trying to get leads out of it? Are you trying to, do you want your book to get in everybody's hands, in which case you might give it away? Do you want to combine it with events? I've seen authors who've had a big half-day event, and the launch is just one part of that. So that's another option. There's all sorts of different ways you can wrap it in with what you're doing in your business.
Yeah, and I think that's key here, is especially given the climate, but even regardless, right? You should have a purpose for a book launch. And it should be, yes, invite some friends and that sort of thing, who are going to congratulate you, but also look at inviting clients and prospects and that kind of thing as well. Because at the end of the day, why did you write the book? For your business, right?
Yeah.
For your business.
Yeah.
So, we need to focus in on that fact that's a key ingredient here, is what happens next. I've heard of some launches that they ran an actual workshop or a session or something like that. So they've added some really good value to it. What would be sort of a really good launch that you've seen that kind of combines all that? You don't have to give names, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. Look, I could give you a lot of them. Probably one of the most fun ones I went to was a few years ago now, but it was the one I mentioned before of doing a cooking demonstration. So the author, I won't single anybody out, but it was a cookbook, and so she had, I think it was at a winery, and she'd had like a whole, hot plate and everything set up, and so she actually demonstrated cooking one of her quick recipes at the launch. So things like that. It was just fantastic. Had a really good vibe. People could see her, processes in action. And so it actually turned it into an event that was kind of also a book launch rather than just being a book launch. So anything like that you can tack on. I've seen them at, I've seen launches of photography books and that kind of thing in art galleries. Obviously that's fantastic. All sorts of ideas. You can just, you can do whatever you want that's, related to your book and going to get people interested.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that should be the goal here, is how do you make it as sort of a part of your business? Because if you can create it as more of an event and experience, then you're bringing some good value to that. Not saying you obviously shouldn't celebrate, but I was just actually getting word things are a little bit quiet, and we may not actually be broadcasting live. So
no.
we talked about the
Technical
tech
issues.
sometimes that happens. So
We talking to ourselves, are we?
yeah, but that's okay. Hopefully there's the recording that
Yeah.
works. So we'll be able to broadcast that. But honestly, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
I love what you've been saying, Michael, and then I'll continue and we'll just put it out there or reschedule it as well, which might be fun too. So
Excellent.
I don't have a problem doing that.
No, me neither. I can talk
Go
about
with
this
the
stuff all
flow.
day. Yeah.
Go with the flow. All right, cool. So I'm going to now talk about taking some of Michael's concepts. So you have a book, you've got it. It's, at the printers, at the publishers, we're, starting to say, okay, well, what am I going to do? And what am I going to do online? Because obviously that's one of the biggest ingredients nowadays. So I'm going to walk us through that. So, oh, wait, here we go. Now we've got some comments. Oh, cool. Hey, welcome, Vanessa.
Hey, Vanessa, how you doing?
Yeah. And Leslie and Vanessa are there. Fantastic. Awesome. Good to know that you're there. So it is working. But Amanda couldn't get on. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But anyway, we'll just keep going forward. So Michael, I'm going to just drop you off the screen. I'm going to go through my stuff, but I still can hear you. So if you want to ask me a question, I'll just bring you back in.
Yep, no problem.
I can drone on for a while.
I'll jump in.
All right, so let's keep going here. We did experience a little bit of a technical difficulty. So this is going to be part 2 of the online book launch. My name is obviously, if you've been watching part 1, my name is Doyle Buehler, and this is part 2. And we're going to be talking about developing your toolkit, and some of the digital strategies as well. So a lot to cover. So let's get moving right into it. For those who don't know me, I've been in business for 18 plus years. I've built multiple tech and e-commerce startups around the world, expanded it around the world. One of the top 40 fastest growing companies in Canada, the number 1 fastest growing in the state. These are all e-commerce based businesses, and working with people in terms of helping them understand digital business and how to actually create that transformation. But on that note, transformation is no longer transformation. What transformation actually is building an expedition. And that's really what I want to do, is take you on a kind of an expedition of how do we actually build the tools that you need to be able to do an online book launch. So super, super critical for that. I'm the author of the book Breakthrough Strategy and Storytelling for the Digital Age. And that outlines sort of some of my core strategies that businesses can use to really build a strong digital foundation, which is obviously very important, and even now more so than ever. So where are you now? What's going on? If you look at sort of what's been happening in the last couple of weeks, couple of months, you might feel a little bit alone. You might feel that, oh, wow, this is a mighty big ocean, digital and online and that sort of thing. And it certainly is. But what we can do is actually help break this down, make it a lot easier to comprehend, but also to understand as well, in terms of what are the pieces that you really need, what's really important here, especially obviously for the online book launch as well. And making sure that you kind of build a roadmap, a flight plan, something that gives you those sort of that structure, that foundation that's super, super important for what you're doing and what you're going to be building as well. As Michael was talking about previously, there is sort of those types of online book launches, or book launches rather, that work quite well and are quite useful type thing. But what I've seen sort of in the digital space is 3 basic types. There's an event type, there's a promotion type, and then there's a hybrid type thing. So an event type launch is really kind of what Michael was talking, where it's like a gala event where you have people, you have, speakers and that sort of thing. You can also do this in the digital space online, right? And that's what's key to understand here, is that you don't have to have it in a conference center or a meeting hall or wherever, a restaurant or cafe or, a museum or art gallery, right? You can actually have an event launch online by having the proper tools in place. It doesn't need to be that big of a deal, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And at the end of the day, it's really how to present your book to the world, which is super, super important. So keep that in mind. Now, the second one is the promotion book launch, and this is where you market and promote your book to push sales, typically such things as an Amazon bestseller campaign and those types of things. So it's meant more to promote things, right? The book coming out, the Kindle version, an audiobook version, or whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind, that it's important to get your book out there. And I spoke about that earlier, where what's the business case here, right? If you're not doing it to sort of grow your business, then, what's the point type thing. So you may have to make sure that you do a good launch, obviously, but also you should be tying it together, right? You should be promoting it. You should be, the outcome should be not necessarily maybe a number of book sales, but perhaps it's number of people who you connected with, who watched the program, who watched the launch from remotely or whatever the case may be. And that leads you to basically what I call the hybrid event promotion launch, which is a combination of those where it's a book release event, right? But it's also tied into more marketing promotions and book sales or packages and that sort of thing. So you're really kind of getting these pieces together and tying everything together. So you've got the people, you've got the event, you have the book, you have you speaking, you have other people speaking. You're also actually creating more of an integration, more of an event as well. And it doesn't become necessarily just a boring type of event where it's you talking as a talking head. Bring in some guests, right? You can do this in the digital space. You can do this online. And that's what's really important, is how can you actually put all these pieces together? But tie it into your product, tie it into your book. If you're creating business content, then you can obviously create some workshops or worksheets and that sort of thing. So we want to look at how do we actually tie everything together, which is super important. Some of the core strategies that you need kind of going forward. Number one, build your email list, run an expression of interest campaign, right? So a lot of people won't necessarily have a big email list starting, and you might go, well, I don't have any type thing. There's steps that we can take to actually start to build out an email list pretty quickly. So even if you don't have one right away, the timing of the things that I'm going to lay out for you really kind of allow you to do that as well. And you can also do what's called an expression of interest type campaign as well. The second important thing is build your social community, right? You might say, well, I don't have a Facebook page, or I don't have, a WhatsApp group or whatever. Now is the time to start, right? You don't necessarily have one to, run a launch, but if you wanted to run a launch in the next couple of weeks, you kind of do. So you have to take a look at that. It's not necessarily dependent upon that though, because we would, and I'm going to talk about using some paid ad strategies as well to be able to do that. But you need to start now. So typically you plan out 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. You can put the pieces in place pretty quickly to be able to grow your email list and grow your community as well. So don't feel discouraged if it's coming up and you don't have an audience. You can still do a very effective way, and I'll show you how you can do that. You want to be able to build a platform of a strong foundation and a toolkit as well. And I've got some great tools that I'm going to talk to you about. And then you can reinforce this with email. So again, you don't necessarily have to have a list of 10,000 or even 1,000 or even 100, right? Start with what you have, but the objective here is to use email as a reinforcing tool as well, to get people, to inform people of where you're at, what the promotion is, what's coming, what they can do to help, and that sort of thing as well. So super important. And then the fifth thing is run complementary ads as well. Typically, we talk about being in our own specific space, but you know what? Our sphere of influence can grow as well, and that's actually how we do it, is with paid and complementary ads that talk not necessarily just about buy my book, right? This is where an expression of interest campaign will come in place, where you can actually look at, okay, my book launch is in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or whatever. I need to get people there. How do I do that without an actual event? Well, you have an expression of interest, right? Are you interested in this type of thing? How can you actually do these activities and that sort of thing as well? So 5 of the key strategies that will really kind of get you going as you get into it. All right. And I seem to have lost. There we go. All right. So what I've also done is prepared an online book launch toolkit. There's links at the bottom of the presentation as well that I'll be able to provide. And just basically, we're talking about event platforms that are super important. You can use Zoom webinars, Facebook Live, Be Live, which we did the first half of this presentation on. You can do it as a webinar event. You can do it what's called FYI.to for sharing content as well. And I've got all those links located as well. For email marketing, the thing you're going to use is something like Ontraport for campaigns. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot out there. There's Active Campaign, there's Keep, there's Microsoft Dynamics, that sort of thing. So you've got a lot of tools available, but don't go overboard. And that's important. Use what you can. MailChimp is pretty simple to start with. It doesn't have quite the level of automations that you might need down the road, but you know what? It's cheap, it's easy, it's something you can start with. You want to look at landing pages. And again, this is why we typically use something like Entreport, because it allows you to be able to create some landing pages. So you don't actually need a separate website to be able to do this. You will need web page builders, WordPress, Wix, GoDaddy, you name it. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can add it to your existing website, web pages, whatever the case may be. Keep it simple, keep it easy, right? You don't want to be adding a lot of extra effort here. And then Trello as well to help you get and stay organized over time also. So super important. In terms of process and timings, typically what you want to do is set up, right? So this is planning out the process, plan at least 6 weeks in advance. And again, if you're looking at, I've got something coming up in the next 2 weeks, take some of this and compress it down, right? Look at your ads, look at your emails, look at your community, look at sort of getting other people to help out as well. But, you know, look at these strategies. You can really compress them down. It's obviously going to take a lot of extra effort to be able to do that. But that's why I say, look, you need at least 6 weeks, ideally, to be able to build the plan and assess it and create all the assets as well. Because you are going to need quite a bit to build a large audience, so that by the time you're running the promotion, you have a bigger email list, you have a bigger community, you have more people that are actually interested in what you're talking about, you have an event, right? And that's the key. You're able to do a launch because that's what's going to happen. That's what you need to do throughout this process. So step number 1 is set up, plan out the process, plan at least 6 weeks in advance. Your landing pages, what are you going to use, your campaigns, your image copy, your social media post copy, your images, your videos, your plan for creation as well. Second step is launch. So get this ready. This means you're running it, okay? So have your project plan with dates ready, get some guests to appear on your show, invite specific people to the event to attend. Don't just leave it up to chance, right? You can just sort of have a loose, come to my event type thing. Or if you really want to be effective, you go hand-to-hand combat kind of thing. You ask specific people who you would like to attend. Say, hey, I'm running my book launch. Hey, person A, John, I'm running my book launch on such and such a day. I would love for you to come and watch it. Okay? It's plain, it's easy. You can get an instant commitment from them as well. So don't leave it up to chance. Don't just put a random, please join my online book launch as well, which you will need to do for other interested parties. But if you really want somebody to come, you just go ahead and ask. Third step is pre-event. So look at your trial run, right? Make sure that all your tech is in place. Really is super important. Introduce your guests to it. So if you've got a couple guests, I would highly recommend having some people to talk, not just about the book, but talk about, adding value as well to the whole event process, right? You obviously invited them for a reason. So what can they talk about rather that would really help them out in the long run and what they do and that sort of thing. So super important to do that. Again, get them through the tech. I know sometimes it's just as easy as clicking a button, but sometimes you do have problems, as we've sort of experienced earlier with this edition as well. So it allows you to troubleshoot and solve some possible problems and that sort of thing. If you're running an event as well, get everybody on board beforehand, right? So if you have guests coming, get them to sign in about half an hour before, because as with tech, as most of us know, it doesn't always work. So at least you've got some time to troubleshoot and away you go. So anyway, pre-event is leading up to right before as well. And then the event. Okay. So for the actual event, making sure that you have, your specific offers, your specific giveaways, any support pages, have all the links ready to go. I prepare Google Docs or Apple Notes or whatever the case may be to basically keep things organized. It allows me to sort of script a certain amount of content and then free flow for the rest of it as well. And that's actually a good point is don't feel that you have to wing it the whole way through either, right? It's more a matter of how can you actually organize this. If you're a great talker, fantastic, just talk along and away you go. Personally, I find that I need to have, key points that I'd like to talk about, like this presentation, for example, right? So that I'm making sure that I cover all my bases. So don't feel that you need to kind of ad-lib everything. If you do need to plan it, great. If not, cool. Making sure that you do sort of touch on all the high points as well as you get into it also. So And one of the important things is making sure that you have all your assets ready to go. So you've got some support pages that you can send people to. You've got offers that people can go to as well afterwards, or download a workbook or whatever the case may be. But make sure you have those all out and ready and tested. And then post-event, right? Just because the event is over doesn't mean the event is over, right? So you've taken some time to be able to build rapport with a bunch of people through email, through social, that sort of thing. So make sure that you continue that interaction and continue to communicate as well, because that's where a lot of the business upside is going to be coming from. It's not necessarily from the event. Everybody's excited about the event and hey, rah, 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 let's go. But what happens after, right? Unless you want it to kind of drop into the pit of despair, right? You need to sort of look at how can I continue this conversation as well. So perhaps look at providing additional content, additional chapters, or even just to keep people interested, additional visuals or videos or training or something like that. Keep them interested. And then move them into your business process, right? Your business selling process, or whatever the case may be, your buyer's process as well. Continue to educate, continue to inform, and keep it going after, basically, is what I'm saying. So in terms of content planning milestones, and making sure that you're creating quality content, right? We want to have better content, not necessarily more content. So making sure that when you do create content, that it is very focused on your ultimate objective, right? Typically, I recommend about creating 2 videos per week for about 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the event. Create one times a live, like a Facebook Live or whatever the case may be, Instagram, if that's your channel, LinkedIn, if you're able to connect on that one, and run that for about 2 to 3 weeks as well. And again, the idea is to get people to come and get people interested and really sort of, create your cheer squad that you're going to be using, but also for people to attend as well. So it's really important to kind of start to build a wave early, a swell of interest and that sort of thing. Plan out your content. It doesn't have to be all the same thing. It can be different ways of, interpreting your book or your content or whatever the case may be. So making sure that you've got stuff that you can teach people, you can show people, you can tell them how to build things or do things or whatever it is the objective of your book is. So you want to start sending emails regularly leading up to the event, about 1 to 2 per week. So as you're building your list in the expression of interest campaign, which I'll show you how to do shortly, take a look at adding to that. So about 4 weeks to go, you should be sending out a regular email. And again, even if it's only 5 to 10 people, at least you're kind of proving that process out and making sure that you have all the steps that you need, and that everything is working as well, right? That people are receiving it, and so on and so forth. So plan ahead. Start early, all right? Like I said, in most events, even in the real world, offline events, actually, what would you call a real event, I guess, in real life, IRL, making sure that you start earlier, because the work obviously seems to compress towards the end. So making sure that you've got all the pieces in place, then you can actually launch effectively. Now, in terms of an Amazon bestseller campaign, we had a great conversation with Michael earlier about this, but deciding what you actually want, right? What is the business objective here for your book launch? You can have, like I said, an event, but do you also want to combine it with a promotion? And a promotion in this case is basically an Amazon bestseller campaign. It doesn't necessarily have to be Amazon bestseller. It could be just, I want to sell as many books. I want to sell, 1,000 books during my launch, or whatever the case may be. So you don't necessarily need to have an Amazon bestseller campaign, but depends on your business objectives. But it is a nice to have. And if you're going to be promoting it anyways, guess what? It's super easy just to tack on that Amazon side of things and really kind of keep things moving for you. So highly recommend it. But it has to be structured properly. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of time. It may or may not work out. And so you kind of want to mitigate any of the risks as well that might come from setting one up as well. So here are some of the key items that we typically address as well. You want to create visuals of your book for social posts and ads, right? You're going to need them for both. So if you're creating visuals for social, guess what? You can easily convert those into visuals for ads as well. Look at setting up about 5. So you can alternate between the weeks. You can also start running them early as well. Create copy with book for social posts and ad copy as well. So again, start to tell the highlights, the key points, the key story points as well as you get into it. So this again is part of the planning steps as well. Making sure that you define your audience and your groupings for ads and promotions is super, super important. Right? With Facebook, we're going to tie this in with Facebook ads. So what's really important is being able to know who that customer is. And then guess what? Facebook is actually able to help you find those specific people as well. So that's why it's important to be very, either let Facebook try to find who your customer is by see who actually clicks, or defining it based on people that are on your email list or whatever the case may be. So making sure that it's clear. And that's why one of the points coming up too is test. You need to start testing early just to make sure that you've got that. Don't leave the advertising to the end, because again, it's not going to be as effective. You have to run some trickle ads at the beginning just to kind of get a feel for what's going on and how things are going. And then you can really push hard once you've built up the audience and some remarketing and that sort of thing as well. Look at creating videos. Again, as I said, you need to create about 5 overall, 1 per week, 1 to 2 per week, ideally, to get things going. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be, a Hollywood production either. They can be quick and easy, a live video, and away you go, which then you repurpose into more of a video that you can broadcast as recorded as well. So making sure you're talking about the book, but don't just ramble on. Again, have some ideas, have some script that really kind of gives people some content and context of what it's about and what they can actually learn and that sort of thing as well. You want to make sure you add your Facebook pixel to your site for follow-on traffic, for remarketing, which is really important. Verify your Amazon Kindle setup for campaigns, right? It seems pretty easy. You'd be surprised at how many stories I've heard where the promotion's running, but oh wait, the Kindle version isn't actually uploaded. So make sure you plan it out. Just check that everything's working. Then go buy a copy or get a few people to buy a copy just to verify that yes, everything is working 100%. Because you know what happens? What is it? Mr. Murphy will sort of start to help you define that, oh, you didn't do this quite right, or oh, you missed that, or whatever. So make sure you test it, right? Get it out there, try it, see if it works. And if it doesn't, you just fix it and you move on. Plain and simple. Coordinate dates for promo and create a plan. So as I said before, making sure that you've got this structured. So countdown, I want to do the book launch on July 1st. Okay, I need 4 weeks to do this. I need 6 weeks to do that. So let's go. Let's build a plan and go with it, right? Don't just build something by the seat of your pants. You may meet with success, you may not, right? With a plan, with a flight plan, you basically have a pretty good ability to succeed at that, and making sure that you've got all these pieces in place as well. Coordinate email campaigns for existing supporters, right? Run Facebook form ads to add to email database as well. This is the expression of interest, right? So if you've got 4 weeks to your book launch, you're not going to tell people, come to my book launch or buy my Amazon, or buy the book from Amazon right away, because why would you do that? Like, it's 4 weeks away. I'm not going to come to your event now, right? I'm not going to tell you I'm going to come to your event until maybe a couple days, a couple weeks, that sort of thing. So what you can do is create an expression of interest campaign. And what that really is saying, hey, are you interested in this type of content? Are you interested in, digital marketing? Are you interested in, whatever core business that you're dealing with or that you're producing? And you use that. If you are interested, here's a PDF, here's a gift for you. I'd like you to take a look at this strategy worksheet or this marketing worksheet or whatever the case may be, so that you can actually see if this is something for you, right? And guess what? If it's a simple Facebook form ad, they fill in their name, their details, their email, and they get a free worksheet. That's a great starting point. Okay, that's how you start to build your email list. That's how you start to build your community and your remarketing and retargeting and that sort of thing. Keep it simple. That's then when you can actually integrate that into the overall process of saying, once they've downloaded that, then create, helping them along this expedition, helping them along this journey to kind of get them to where you want to be in time for your event as well, which is critical. Run the ads leading up to the promotion and during the promotion. So again, run an expression of interest campaign before you run the event campaign, the ad specific for the event, or the Kindle promotion or whatever the case may be. You'll need to split that up if you are doing sort of those ones as well. But again, you now know who that audience is. You've tested it. If they're interested in the download, they're probably interested in what you have to offer for the event or the Kindle promotion or whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind, that you're building a foundation, but you're building more. You're building the structure, the infrastructure for example, for this bridge as well. So run the ads leading up to the promotion and during the promotion as well. So again, you don't necessarily have to, spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but making sure that you're running specific paid campaigns up to the event, but also during as well, because you're going to want to make sure that you're really pushing people towards the event or towards the downloading the Kindle or that sort of thing. And just on a side note as well, if you actually do it as sort of the hybrid event that I'm talking about, you can do both of these, right? So you can have an event, and during your actual event, you're talking about downloading your Kindle version from Amazon. And if you have an event with guests and speakers talking for, let's say 1.5 hours type thing, you have an immense opportunity in front of you to be able to, again, promote that, download the Kindle or whatever the case may be. That's what's really important here, and that's what you want to be looking at as well. So they're very easy to run together, and that's why I highly recommend that you do as well. It gives people something to do. So while between breaks between speakers or whatever, you can talk about the Amazon promotion. You can talk about any bonuses or any other sort of training you might be providing as well during your launch event. So it's really easy to be able to say, hey, go download the Amazon Kindle. If you want to charge, go for it. 99 cents, $1.99, whatever, or free as well is certainly an option too. But it gives you an opportunity to do that. And then to encourage people to say, hey, look, during your event, can you actually, you've downloaded it. Can you send the link to somebody else? Send your link to some other people. So you're really building a swell of, people who are able to act upon that right away through these types of things. Track Amazon status for bestseller category, it can flip very quickly. So go into the Amazon categories and see where your book is. And guess what? It would also be something cool to talk about if you're doing an event, again, with speakers or just your solo or whatever the case may be, where you can talk about where it's going, because you will see the time. It is pretty live. It is pretty dynamic as well. So you can see the growth pretty quickly if you're getting some good traction as well. Create timings and milestones for bestseller promotion. Again, making sure that you have a project plan. You're not leaving it to the last minute. Typically, promotions run for about 3 to 5 days to kind of give you that traction, give you that uplift to be able to get to the bestseller status as well. But again, it's not going to happen if you decide to do it in the last week. And then just making sure that you're looking at the results that you're getting also as we get into that. All right. So I've talked about some of this already, but just to kind of reiterate, we want to make sure that we integrate a paid campaign structure as well, paid ad campaign structure as well. Your free promotion, your social posts, they're going to have some effect, but unless you want to kind of expand that outside of your existing sphere of influence, you need to look at how do I actually do that? Well, through paid ad campaigns as well. The campaigns usually run on Amazon for 3 to 5 days. So you would run a campaign typically across that and again, look at the event side of it as well. I suggested earlier you run an initial short test campaign prior to start date. So typically, you should start looking at running campaigns 3 weeks out. If it's just an Amazon campaign, then 10 days out is kind of good enough just to give you a little bit of a taste to see, who is seeing this, what are they doing, are they responding to it, and that sort of thing. And that's where the preview or the coming soon campaign, or again, the expression of interest type campaign comes in place. And that's where you can offer a specific book snippet, or even download a chapter or download some worksheets or some visuals or some infographics from your book, that sort of thing. So this is where you're actually able to start to build your email list. So if you have like a Facebook format, for example, that you can download, a chapter of your book, they enter their details, then they get that chapter of the book, then you can actually continue to tell them that story, right? Continue to market to them either through email or through Facebook remarketing or that sort of thing. So it's really quite, again, you're building this foundation that you can use again and again and again. So it's important to kind of set these pieces in place that work for you. So once launch promo period begins, run the initial ads and then continue with the series leading up to the event. Hey, there's 5 days to go before my event. There's 4 days to go before my event. There's 3 days to go before my event. There's 2 days in one, and that sort of thing. So look at how you can actually motivate that observer to become kind of more of a motivated observer, I guess is the best to say that. And then run a final days campaign as well, leading up to it. If you've got 3 days to your event, don't give up. This is where you should be doing emails. This is where you should be doing social posts. And this is why you need to have this content all ready to go. You should have ads as well that's saying, hey, we're in the final days of this campaign or this event. You need to make a decision now because it's going to be running. And you need to be a part of this as well. So super, super important. All right. So what else do you need to know? I talked a bit about this earlier. Don't forget to sell, right? Great. You've got a book and you've got getting applause and, pat on the back and that sort of thing, which is fantastic. But what's the purpose of this? So don't forget to sell. Again, you can continue the conversation further down. A lot of people use a book launch towards a workshop or a program, right? A monthly program or a mastermind or, those types of things as well. So it really gives you an opportunity to sell your product, your services, because that's fundamentally, that's what you're doing this for, right? If not, then, maybe the book's just, one of the tick the bucket list or whatever the case may be. But if you're serious about business, have a serious offer at the end as well. And even if you talk about getting people to express their interest there, that's totally fine too. You don't necessarily have to sell them. If you'd want to, for example, book a call with me, here's my link to book a call, or you can download, if you purchase the book, I'll send you the free PDF, and would love to, continue the conversation as well. So don't think of it as a finite stop, right? You need to continue the activity as well. Have some gifts along their journey as well. A section of the book. These are where the expression of interest and the ads can come into play as well. Again, to grow your email list, to grow your community. Continue with workshops, worksheets, rather, visuals from your book. Make it interesting. Get it out there with a lot of content, videos, and images, and those types of things as well. Don't do the show alone, right? I mentioned this quite a few times, but have some guests to help build the excitement and interest as well. So, is it a business leader? Is it a political leader? Is it, clients? Is it, whomever? But don't feel that you need to just be kind of a talking head like I'm doing here, right? It's an event. So make it an event. On Zoom, on all these other platforms, you can bring in, dozens and hundreds of people. That might be a bit hard to manage, but the point is that, it's cool to have some guests. And even if you bring them in from afar, you can connect them with Zoom and away you go. And then they can talk about, similar concepts or about the book or, how awesome you are and that sort of thing. But look at, getting some people involved in it as well. And then they can obviously help promote it too, to some extent. Don't expect them to carry the load for that as well. Make it a learning opportunity, right? Not just to show off. Okay. It's about your business. How are you going to actually do that? Don't just create an event again, just for a pat on the back. To me, you might as well stay home and write some more books or whatever the case may be. But do something, make it learning, make it educational, make it provide them with some real value at the end of the day. That's what's super, super important. Telegraph what you're doing. Right now is not the time to be shy. I'm going to be having my book launch right in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, in 3 weeks, next week. Tell people, please sign up. I'm having my book launch. You'll be notified when things happen. So again, get it out there. It is a lot of work, and you're not necessarily going to get a lot of response, especially towards the at the beginning of these stages and that sort of thing. But it's important to start now. Tell people I'm going to be having a book launch. Get people in the understanding that, oh, hey, Doyle's planning his book launch, for July 1st. I remember him saying that a couple of weeks ago, right? So you're able to impact them on their journey as well. And you don't have to do it all as well. Get help with email marketing, ads, etc., so you can focus on delivering a great presentation, because ultimately that's what you're about. You're about the book. The book is about you, the business processes, whatever the case may be. If you're not tech, don't worry. There's lots of people out there. Michael can help you with sort of the the publishing side. I can help you with a lot of the tech side, so don't feel that you need to do this alone either. So, all right. Just want to finish up with a couple of questions. So SIQ should ask questions. What platforms should I use? Again, they're pretty simple. Use something like Be Live or Zoom for the actual event itself. Okay. And then use something like Entreport typically for your email management, your campaigns, and that sort of thing. What app should I use? Again, that would be something like Entreport. Trello as well helps you organize things. FYI.to is another great tool to help you organize your content, organize a whole bunch of activity. I've got the link coming up, so take a look at that when you get it. How much will it cost? Typically, it depends on you can run ads, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on a campaign. That's why I suggest testing it out first, running it 3 to 4 weeks, run it on an expression of interest type basis, so you're not actually promoting the event or the bestseller campaign, but you're promoting, stuff around it as well. So cost-wise, typically you should budget a couple $1,000s for ad spend throughout 4 weeks as well. If you can spend more, spend it, depending on the value that you get at the end. And that's why it's important to have that value to that selling, the buyer's process at the end. What product or services are you going to offer as part of this book launch that you can actually sell and generate revenue from as well? So, look at your cost benefit analysis. If you can get 5 people into your program, what is the cost of doing those sales to be able to do that, to promote it, to market it? And is that a good return for you? So keep that in mind as well. When should I start promoting it? Today, right? Start planning it today. Make sure you have a concrete plan in place about 4 to 6 weeks out. Because again, you're going to need a lot of assets, visuals and videos and copy and all that kind of stuff. You're going to need some people to help you as well. And they need time to be able to put these pieces in place as well. When should I have a launch? Again, pick a date. Give yourself about 2 months, but it can be done in less as well. How long should it be? Typically, if you have a couple guests on it, feel free to make it into, a talk show or something like that, right? So, give it as much time as you feel that you can. If it's training, you might want to add a little bit extra time, but, an hour to 2 hours type thing can certainly work as well. So it's up to you. It's up to your audience. It's up to the guests as well, if you can get those to come as well. How do I give away or sell books? That can be through a simple link process that you have where they might, actually, I wish I could show that right now. But one of the links for FYI.to is you can actually have, I'll try to do that at the end to show that specific link. So you can have a PDF, you can have a form, you can have other links as well, which is a really fantastic tool to have. Or you send them to Amazon, give them the link as you're talking, make sure that they can click the link in the chat box and repeat the link as well, that people can download it or purchase the book or go to your specific page where you have a bonus, pay for shipping and you get the free book or with some bonuses or that sort of thing as well. What if I don't have much of a social media following yet? Am I doomed? No, you're not doomed. As I said, it does take some time. Don't rely on sort of that organic type community. Look at getting some paid ads, and you can set up paid ads pretty quickly within 2 weeks type thing. You can get a pretty good program going to promote the event or promote the book or promote the expression of interest or whatever. So if you don't have a community right away, I talked about how you can actually do that, how you can build it through email, how you can build it through Facebook as well. Should I do paid advertising? Yes, absolutely. Even if you have everything, if you've got a great email list, if you've got a great community, it really helps because again, you're expanding that sphere of influence that you have, getting in touch with more people, bigger audience, potential clients, whatever the case may be. So it's very important to be able to do that. Should I contact traditional media? Yeah, absolutely. If you have a book launch and you've got some great guests, you've got Tony Robbins or something who's agreed to appear on your panel or whatever the case may be, talk about it, right? But don't, PR is sort of a special game in and of itself, right? So making sure that it's newsworthy, it's not just about you and your book, right? It's the value that you're actually providing to your audience is important. Should I prepare a media kit? Yes, if you're going to be doing that about your book, you absolutely need to do that. All right, so links and resources, the platform tools, the online book launch toolkit is bit.ly/book launch tools. If you'd like to download a free PDF copy of the book, you can do it at bit.ly/breakthrough PDF. As well. I want to thank Michael. Again, I said we had some technical issues with Facebook. So the second half, unfortunately, didn't record, but we're merging it. We're splicing it together with the first half that did work for both of us. So thanks, Michael, for your patience, and thanks, everybody, as well, for your patience as we deal with it. And I guess that's something to consider, too, is that, look, it's not going to work out 100%. There are going to be some tech issues. So, you know what? Just deal with them. Don't panic. I know it's hard to say or to do sometimes, but you know what? There's always a solution. There's so many different channels out there. There's so many different platforms. You switch from between one and the other if there is an issue. You can troubleshoot pretty quickly as well, and you don't need to be a rocket surgeon either. So, all right. So thanks again, Michael. You can contact Michael through the Director of Publishing, MH Publishing. His number's there, or mhpublishing.com.au is his website. It's publishcentral.com.au. This is an amazing resource for writers. Even just go take a look. Like, he's put some fantastic stuff together there as well, which is really cool to see for writers of all different stages along that journey as well. How to contact myself, send me an email, doyle@depth.digital. Give me a call. You can go through to breakthrough.digital, get a copy of the book as well. Whether it's online, actually, I suppose that's the better option. Amazon, Booktopia, you name it, it's there. Go for it, take a look. Find your competitive edge online. Go to leadership.digital. I actually have an assessment to some of the criteria that I go through in the book are what I call the 7 disciplines of digital leadership. Where do you stand with those? How do you actually, how are you able to use and leverage those to build your foundation? So that's what's kind of measures, see where you're at with with those 7 different aspects. And then if you'd like to book a call with me, please go to my Calendly page, calendly.com/Doyle Buehler /30 minutes as well. Happy to talk as well to get you sorted on this. So it's going to be a brave new world. I actually wrote this in 2019. It's going to be a brave new world, digital world in 2020, but only for those businesses who take the time to build their effective strategy that aligns their value with what their audience is actively seeking to solve their challenges. Challenges today are immense. Like, let's be perfectly honest, right? So if you haven't started to build your foundation, your digital foundation, you can't delay it anymore. You really have to shift this as well. And I've got a few pointers on that, but that's, another topic all unto itself. Reach out if you'd love to talk about it, because I do enjoy it, and I'll probably have some videos coming up on that as well. Making sure that you have a business strategy that helps your business correct itself upright under all conditions that you encounter as well. So be prepared, right? Every great business has an even greater foundation. Ooh. So the tech seemed to work. We'll see if we can if this is recorded and go from there. I'll learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist, is my final parting words. If you'd like to download the free PDF of the book, go to bit.ly/breakthrough PDF, and happy to help you where I can. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Happy to help along the way as well. And let's just stop this. All right. And it looks like we've got some more. All right, so I'll sign off now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Appreciate your time. And let's keep going.